Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Damme and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that typically helps you get more out of movies, but today we're going to talk about some of the best true crime series you can currently watch on Netflix. So this list is going to be all about series, true crime series, Netflix original true crime series to be more specific. I'm also excited to announce a new sponsor, Universal Yums. It's an amazing sponsor that goes really well with this channel, so I'm excited to tell you more about them later in the video. Now this is a very strong list because my number 10 pick, the one all the way at the back, is a damn good true crime series. It's called Evil Genius. This one is the weirdest one on the list because it's just such a bizarre story. I'm not going to divulge too much, but you get a lot of the weirdness in the very first episode. In fact, you get all of the details that surround this inciting incident, the incident that sort of led authorities to unravel this really bizarre story about these really bizarre characters. This one does have some graphic imagery in it at times. It's not throughout the entire series, but there are a couple of really shocking moments. So those of you that are sensitive or that have a sensitive gut, be careful with this one. But it's about this weird bank robbery and a pizza delivery and a body in a freezer. There's so many bizarre elements to this. If they had made this into a movie instead of a documentary series, I would have not liked it. I would have thought it was way too far-fetched. I wouldn't have bought any of it, but all of this stuff really happened. It's really wild, and it's not that long of a series either. You can burn through it pretty quickly. John Grisham's An Innocent Man is kind of on par with a lot of the things that Netflix is putting out. It sort of takes a look at the criminal justice system, but this one had a little more credibility than some others because of the inclusion of John Grisham. He initially sort of researched this story, wrote a non-fiction book based on it, and then he does take part in this documentary as well. And so he's sort of leading everything off, and I think that does add an air of credibility to it. And this is ultimately about some people who are wrongfully imprisoned. It takes a while to get there, but obviously from the title, that's what it's about. And it's a very sort of upsetting story. The only real reason I had this one so far back, because I do feel like it's very well produced, is there wasn't as much closure as I would have liked to get from it. And it's just the nature of this story. So it has nothing to do with the way that it was produced, but ultimately how fulfilling is it? How much did I get out of it? It left me sort of wanting more in not a very good way, but I thought the whole series was really well produced. It was one of the more like tight and professional ones that I'd seen in a while. Now, another really weird one is Wild Wild Country. This one's actually about a cult that moved to the United States, just out in the country, and they basically bought a small town, and there's all sorts of, not just crimes, but just backstabbery, shenanigans, just weird stuff, and some really wild characters in this one as well. But this is such an insane story. I cannot believe I had never heard of it before watching this documentary series. And this is actually put on by the same people that created, or at least produced, Evil Genius. So clearly they've got sort of an itch for some of these weirder stories, and they do a very good job of producing these documentaries as well. Now, The Pharmacist is a more recent release, and I really enjoyed this one. I think it's only about 6 episodes, and it starts off being pretty heartbreaking at the beginning. It's about a father who loses his son, and he sort of investigates the murder on his own. So that part's very interesting. And then he stumbles upon these pill mill doctors, and this sort of chronicles the early discovery of the opioid crisis in the United States. This was just sort of the first glimpse that anyone got of how bad this situation was getting. And the documentary does a very good job with hidden camera footage. They cover everything well. They surprisingly are able to get some of the doctors that are maybe responsible for some of this stuff on camera, like to sit down and do an interview. It's kind of crazy that they did that. So there's some good access going on here as well. And it all centers around this pharmacist whose son died, who kind of tracks everything down. Letting it revolve around him and his story and his testimonials was really good because I identified with that guy pretty well, and it invested me into his story really well as well. Now, my number 6 pick is The Devil Next Door, which is a very historically significant story and just an incredibly well-produced documentary with a lot of archival footage and some great first-hand testimonials from people who were there during this trial of who was supposedly one of the most evil and notorious concentration camp operators in World War II. Next to Hitler, one of the most vile villains of the Holocaust. Yet it's about a guy who lives in Cleveland, who raised his family there, who worked in an automobile plant, and he was suspected as being this guy, this notorious Nazi, and they took him to Israel and put him on trial. It's really just a shocking story, and I thought they did a great job of sort of respecting the true story by doing such a good job with the production on this one. I warned you about graphic material in Evil Genius. This one has a lot of Holocaust footage. You're not going to want to plan to eat dinner while you're watching this one because they do just show you the unflinching, brutal Holocaust footage. And it's relevant, it needs to sort of be seen alongside this story. You need to just be fully aware of the weight of everything as you watch this case unfold. So with me, always reviewing movies on this channel, I've wanted to have a good movie snack sponsor for a while, and Universal Yums reached out to me. I just got my first box in the mail, and I am loving not just the snacks, but the whole concept. So you get this box, and it's got some great literature in it, including facts about all the snacks in there, as well as some games and trivia and things. And this box is from Scandinavia. It's got things from all different countries in that region. It's got gummies, it's got chocolate, it's got cookies, it's got chips. And you would need to take out a second mortgage on your house to buy this many snacks at a movie theater. You can order several different size boxes starting at just $15 a month, and that includes free shipping in the US. There are some shipping rates that apply internationally, but just check the link in the description for more details. And Mrs. Van Damme and I had planned to eat these and taste test all of them while watching a movie. We got like 5 minutes into sort of reading everything and paused the movie, went downstairs and made like a whole thing of it. I think we spent an hour taste testing everything. It was a lot of fun. Most of the stuff was really delicious. There was a cookie dough chocolate thing that is one of the most delicious things I've ever tasted. And it was just like a date night. We didn't even eat all of it. And with us all under quarantine, we haven't gotten to go out and have a date night in a while. So this was just a really nice change of pace. So I'm super excited to have them on as a sponsor. So if you're the least bit interested in these snacks, check out the links in the description. I have no idea what country the next box is coming from, but I'm really looking forward to getting mine. That's right, folks. The Tiger King is not number 1 on this list. Now, while I really did enjoy this series, it's kind of far from like the best thing ever, even though I know a lot of you thought so. I'm from Mississippi. I've spent a lot of time at pool tournaments in my life. I've been around guys like this before. Like, this guy was nothing new to me, but I think a big draw for this show is just this crazy, eccentric zoo owner from Oklahoma who's gay and wears these crazy shirts and has a mullet and the Fu Manchu and the whole thing. Multiple husbands. Like, it's just craziness. And I think a lot of people they're not used to seeing that. And while it is unusual, it's not like I run into people like this all the time. That was sort of the lesser interesting part of this for me. The real interesting part was sort of the duality of it. So I did think it was very good. And I thought the documentarians did a great job of sort of putting up these two characters, this animal rights activist and this zoo owner, who both own a bunch of tigers, who own these zoos that are not the nicest looking places in the world. And they sort of put them up next to each other, and they kind of let you make your own inferences and comparisons, and you don't really know exactly what happened and who's responsible for what. And I thought that was the better part of this documentary. So while I did really like it, I don't think it's the best thing Netflix has ever put out, but I mean, hey, it's in the top 5. Now that said, I put Don't with Cats at number 4. Now I loved how fast-paced this one was. There's some others in my honorable mentions that I liked, but felt like they took a long time getting where they were going. Don't with Cats moves. It keeps moving. It's built more like a TV show because it ends in a cliffhanger. You get the next episode, and a lot of story happens in each hour of this fairly short series. And I'm purposely avoiding talking about too many of the details on a lot of these because that's part of the fun, is the journey. But this one is about some people investigating some animal cruelty online. So there is some images of animal cruelty in the beginning of this series. It's going to be hard to watch, but I think animal lovers will enjoy where this one goes. This is a very, very compelling story. I can't believe how kind of crazy and wild this one got. This is another one. I was just shocked I had not heard of it, but I thought the way that this series was produced really told this crazy story in a very effective way. Now, my number 3 pick is easily the most upsetting thing I've ever seen. Just in terms of like a movie, show, documentary, anything, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez is about not just the child abuse of one child, but the child welfare system. But this starts off with, and it really kind of carries throughout, about the death of a boy named Gabriel Fernandez who was horrifically abused by his parents. And not only do they tell you everything that happened to this boy in the beginning, it gets brought up over and over and over again throughout this series. So again, this one's very, very upsetting. And while I don't like to watch stuff like that for entertainment purposes, because it's just, I think it's just gross to do that for me, this one felt important, and I felt like I was being informed a lot along the way about the child welfare system in this country, because this court case is just a landmark court case. So I feel like there's a lot of important information in this one. And again, just really, really upsetting, but very well put together. I never felt like the series was just treading water and trying to stretch out the time. I felt like it was constantly providing me with new information in this story, in this timeline, which is really why I have it ranked so high here. And then my number 2 pick is one of the most popular ones, if not the most popular one of all time, and that's Making a Murderer. Now, this one was incredibly compelling when it came out. I could not stop watching it. I probably binged this one harder and faster than any of the other ones on this list. But the reason it's not number 1 is it came to light after its release and after its popularity that the creators withheld some fairly significant information that would lead most of you at home to believe that this guy actually did it, because it's very likely that he did, even though the case was tampered with, it was wrong. He probably should be let out of prison because they messed with this case so much. However, they hid some stuff from you that clearly points to him having done it. And I'm not being careful with spoilers here because this one has been out for years, but it still holds up as a really good one with some incredible interrogation videos, and just, it's incredibly well produced. You know, overhead shots of the area where the crime supposedly took place. It just is pieced together better than most things I've seen, and it's got some just movie level twists and turns in it as well. So really fantastic stuff. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor, watch at least the first season of Making a Murderer. Just be aware you're being manipulated as an audience a little bit. As long as you're aware of it, I don't think that that's necessarily a problem. And my honorable mentions for this list includes the Ted Bundy tapes, which I thought was just an interesting look. I honestly felt like maybe I wanted a little bit more out of that series, and I even felt like it was maybe put together kind of roughly. I was more interested in like the tapes section of it, and they spent a lot of time doing some other things, but I thought it paired well nicely with the movie that came out. So I did enjoy it, but didn't think it was as well produced as some of the other stuff that made this list. Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez caught me up on that case. For whatever reason, I did not keep up with the Aaron Hernandez case when it was happening in real time. I knew generally what had happened. I didn't realize to the extent of his crimes, and so I found that really interesting. Plus, the fact that this was made sort of as the case was unfolding. They have fresh footage, eyewitness accounts, all the information's really, really fresh in this one, and it just feels up to date. Again, didn't feel like it was produced as well as some of the others, but still really good, and I enjoyed at least being able to catch up on this case that I basically missed. And then How to Fix a Drug Scandal is a current release. It just released recently, and I have not finished it, which is why it doesn't make this list. But so far, I feel like it's a little bit slow, but this is about corruption inside government agencies in Massachusetts, where the drug testing and the conviction of people for drug crimes takes place. So corruption within that just has these far-reaching consequences. And several episodes in, I feel like it's fairly well produced, but we're not getting to anything super crazy just yet. So I may have to amend if this one picks up the speed, but you know, I'm 3 episodes in and it's good, but it would have been maybe number 11 on this list. So with that, what is the best one ever? It's a little bit of a cheat. I know I say that all the time at number 1, but I feel like The Staircase is the best true crime series on Netflix right now. While it is labeled as a Netflix original, this actually came out about 10 years ago, and then Netflix has added multiple episodes onto the end of it as things have changed, as the story has progressed. But this was a major case in the news back when it first happened, and then I believe 9/11 interfered with it being in the news cycle for obvious reasons, so it just sort of disappeared. But not only is this an amazing documentary series about a really wild murder case, there is unprecedented access to the lawyers, to the defense attorneys. So instead of just constantly doing interviews and showing crime scene photos, which there's plenty of that, there are these long scenes of, you know, prepping for court, going over arguments, things like that you almost never see. Certainly real footage of it you never see, but even in movies they sort of briskly run over stuff like that, and you get to see all of the preparation for this trial, and it's wild stuff. And then it's also a very polarizing story. There are a lot of people that believe that the main subject in this documentary didn't do it, and there's probably just as many people that believe that he did. So that just adds fuel to what makes this so interesting as well. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on some of these in the comments below, but that's the list. Let's also thank all the Patreon supporters for supporting yet another video. Times are tough right now. Advertisers have pulled out of YouTube, but these folks are helping me stay afloat until we're all back to business as usual. If you want to support the show, go check out that link in the description, or check out the Teespring store link. I've got a bunch of these Flick Connection shirts. They're all about to go away, so if you've been eyeing one, get it now, because new designs are coming in short order. But I will keep making videos like this as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking out this video, and you will see me on the next one.